use this opportunity to bang the gavel just because it's really fun. Yay! Okay, welcome to the Public Works and Protective Services Committee meeting tonight. We do have one page to add to the agenda, which is Metchosin Fire Department Protective Services quarterly report. So lots of interesting stuff in this report. With that, could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Great. Okay, we have two presentations tonight. The first one will be by Deidre Chettleburgh from the Metchosin Seniors Association.
Good evening, everyone. Deidre Chettleburgh, 4623 William Head Road. I'm here on behalf of the Metchosin Seniors Association, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the 2023 annual report. This document reports on the services, activities, and accomplishments between January 1st and December 31st, 2023. The services the Metchosin Seniors Association provide align with Schedule A of the agreement with the district and form the architecture of our business plan, in which each activity, objective, measure, lead, and support are outlined. You will have received the business plan and the budget for 2023 in December 2022. The Seniors Resource Centre is the heartbeat of our association and remained open for 16 hours a week throughout 2023, with two exceptions, 2 one-week closures, one over Christmas and one in the summer, the second late in the fall when we were between managers and we had to reduce our hours slightly. The manager of the SRC, supported by the board and volunteers, worked to meet our objectives and fulfill the terms of our agreement. We responded to 287 requests for information, 76 more than in 2022. These requests range from inquiries about the new dental subsidy, to housing, to medical alert systems, to how to source help for house and garden maintenance. We maintained communication with our 367 members, an increase of 57 from last year, via a regular column in the news, a monthly newsletter, the website, and social media. We worked with the fire chief to ensure she was aware of anyone who might need assistance in the event of an emergency, promoted emergency preparedness programs, and supported the Metchosin Flu COVID Clinic in the fall, where a total of 764 vaccinations were given. We offered and/or promoted educational opportunities, helped seniors connect every Wednesday and on the last Friday of the month, and of course there was the well-loved Parisian Cafe, which saw an attendance of 90 plus people last June. The gourmet dinner raffle ticket sales and our first Christmas lights tour realized $5,700. And though unsuccessful, we did apply for 2 grants. In addition to the revenue received from the District of Metchosin and funds realized through fundraising and donations, the MSA has an agreement with the Pacific Centre of Family Services to offer Better at Home in Metchosin. This agreement and funding, last year $14,560, allowed us to provide 163 volunteer drives, logging over 5,000 kilometers, 78 tech support sessions, double the number from last year, and 350 friendly visits and wellness checks. Our finances ended the year solidly, owing to the fact that our expenses were down. Because we didn't have a manager for some time in the fall, the amount paid for the service contract was less, and our administrative expenses and entertainment supplies were less. The year was not without its challenges. It was not easy to find a new manager, and we confirmed that the remuneration we were offering was below the benchmark for similar work. Fortunately, our balance sheet is in good shape, which is going to give us some flexibility. And with many boards and volunteers, though we don't like to admit it, we are aging. And this was brought close to home when one of our board members had a stroke last fall. In closing, I would like to acknowledge and thank all our volunteers. We could not accomplish what we do without you. I would like to thank Lori Stamen for everything she did for the 3 years she was manager, in particular documenting the processes that have allowed for a seamless transition, first to interim manager Shannon Carman, and then to Wendy Buckland, who is our manager now, effective April. Thank you to the District of Metchosin, our Council Liaison Sherry Epp, and the Mayor and Council for their ongoing support. Thank you to all the organizations, businesses, and individuals who contribute in many different ways, from hosting the Friday socials, to buying raffle tickets for the gourmet dinner, to helping sponsor the Parisian Cafe, to writing letters of support for grant applications. You encourage and inspire us. And I'm going to conclude with an invitation. We hope you will join us for the Parisian Cafe on Saturday, June 1st, from 10 to 12 in the courtyard of the Maca. Thank you. There are a few board members with me here this evening, including our treasurer, Kim Schleeper, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks. Do we have any questions, Councillor? Yeah, Councillor Gray.
No questions from me, but just thanks so much to the board and all the volunteers working on the seniors issues and support. It's so important, and allowing people to stay in place, age in place, and the support you're providing, I think, is invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Schubert.
Ms. Chettleburgh, thanks to you and the rest of the board and also your staff as well. Anything you can say about awareness of CIRC in the community? It sounds like it's building, but do you know how people are getting aware? And is there some proven method? Like, is it word of mouth? Is it from the Muse? And anything like that?
I would say it's building, as you say, and a combination of things. I think word of mouth. I think more and more experiences are being shared as there's a little bubble of older people as we're working our way up. And the social media, the news, the combination of things. But
okay.
Certainly a greater awareness of who we are and how we can help.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you very much for your report and a review of everything you're doing. I'm certainly seeing more advertising, which has been awesome. But I think the fact that you're doing all these different services within the community that are supporting and educating not just people that are seniors, but including myself as a junior senior. And even going through the grant and aid process, there were people that I thought if they showed up, they could go and have a speaking series with your organization or MCA or whoever, because we do have a need to learn a lot and support each other regardless of our ages. So I appreciate what your organization is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I've really enjoyed all these years of working with the board, so it's a wonderful group to be affiliated with, and I really appreciate all the countless hours that you put in as volunteers to help out seniors in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I would like to mention that we do appreciate sharing our community and land with our neighbors on the Shannon First Nation. So our second presentation today is Carol Voyt, the Metchosin pickleball lady.
Indeed. Yes, my name is Carol Voyt. I am a Metchosin resident. I live on Gemini Drive, and I'm also one of the founding members of the Metchosin Pickleball Club. When I learned that there was talk and possibly quotes being received for upgrading the tennis court, I really wanted to come and speak to you all from the perspective of one of the end users. As an avid recreational user, I thought that rather than you may be going off on a tangent on your own, not knowing some of these things, that I should come and at least tell you what my experience is here and in Greater Victoria. So I wanted to share some of my thoughts on upgrading our tennis court. I would have three main goals. And so the first one is to refurbish that old, disused, decades-old tennis court and creating a multi-sport area. Notice I didn't say multi-sport court, and I'm going to get into the reasons why in a moment. I would like to provide greater recreational opportunities for residents of Metchosin so that we can recreate in our home community. For example, I spend anywhere from 35 minutes to about 55 minutes driving one way in order to find courts to play. So it would be just a huge gain, not only just as locations for Metchosinites to be able to recreate here, but we wouldn't be traveling, we'd have a lower carbon footprint, so many advantages. The idea of a multi-use area came to mind after speaking to several community residents, and perhaps there's a way we could create an area for tennis, pickleball, maybe basketball, maybe even incorporate an adjacent play area. And this came to mind after I contacted Rachel French, who is an avid tennis player and a pickleball player. I also contacted Shannon Carmen, who has interest in creating a playground or play area. So we have plans as soon as all the three of us can get together, and we hope to include more people in the community to just talk about how can we come up with a cohesive plan that serves several goals, several sports, and work together rather than fighting each other and trying to compete. We want to work together. So we'll be back as a bigger group with a better presentation. Up until last week, I didn't even know the origin of our tennis court, and I suspect that a lot of you don't either. It was actually donated to the citizens of Metchosin by the Royal Canadian Legion. There was a Metchosin branch, and it was donated in 1967. That branch no longer exists. So the court is currently in disrepair. I believe it presents a safety hazard, and both the disrepair and the safety hazard has really led to underutilization. And I find this really sad because a lot of money went into the infrastructure, but we haven't kept it up so that we can use it. If it were actually kept up and if some money were put into to maintain it, I think you would be surprised at the use. I tried to find population numbers for Metchosin from 1967, and the best I could find was, I think, 1980 something. So my best guess is our population has probably doubled since 1967. So if one court served us in 1967, I'm thinking it's time to expand, not only for present day, but for the future. This, which probably most people haven't even seen, is the plaque on the fence of the tennis court. So there it is, showing that the Royal Canadian Legion donated the tennis court in '67. So this next slide, this is a neighboring community that I wanted to show you what they've done. This is a fairly new installation, but on the top photograph, on the left is a dedicated basketball court, in the middle is a dedicated playground area, and on the right is a dedicated pickleball court. So notice that none of those sports overlap, nothing is used for more than one sport at a time. And the evening I drove out there around dinner time to take some photographs, and I was thrilled to see there were people on the basketball court, there was a mom and child playing in the center area on the swings and the slides, and there was a dad and two kids, like the lower photograph, using the pickleball court. So here is what I would love to see in terms of upgrading the tennis court. The orange box represents our existing tennis court, and it has an area of, it's 109 feet by 54.5 feet. Although it fits a tennis court, it's not a regulation size. If we expanded it just a little, 10 feet in one direction, 6 in the other, you would get 120 feet by 6 foot area. And we would, my recommendation would be is to put back an existing tennis court. On that court, perhaps at one end, we could add basketball hoops. I'm not a basketball player, so I don't really know what amount of space that would require. I don't know how much use it would get. So I think we need to find some basketball players in the community to ask them what they would like. I would suggest the dotted green line that we add a second area of 120 by 60 feet, and that would actually fit 4 dedicated pickleball courts. So my proposed area to increase and upgrade would be 120 feet by 120 feet. And I suggest we keep tennis and pickleball separate. And the reasons why are there's huge advantages of dedicated courts. In fact, many communities are going away from multi-sport courts because what happens is prime time people are fighting. Everyone wants to use the court at the same time. So with dedicated courts, you can play several sports at the same time. There's no competition for different sports at the same time. There's only one set of lines. This is actually really important too. So there isn't confusion on, gee, what line am I looking at for what sport am I playing? And for example, tennis and pickleball, the center of the net is adjusted to a different height. So the two sports really should have separate nets and separate courts. This slide, I think, illustrates fairly clearly that if we did a design 120 feet by 120 feet, on the left would be one tennis court replacing the existing tennis court. And on the right, the orange lines, you can actually fit comfortably 4 pickleball courts on the same size as a tennis court. So rather than trying to do both together on one court, you can see the nightmare of lines that you would get. I would propose that we keep them separate and add a second area for pickleball. Funding, that's always the big question, isn't it? I did a little bit of research. These were some things I came up with. I know grants have been applied for in the past. Well, let's apply again for a new grant, or perhaps we could allocate a portion of a residual fund from a past grant. We could use a portion of the $2.4 million provincial infrastructure projects and maintenance grant. My understanding in researching this is the kind of project it's meant for. It's exactly something like this. The UBCM gas tax under the Community Works Fund, we could use a portion of that each year. There's a valid use, it's right in the listing, is the recreation and infrastructure and maintenance. So that's another use. Maybe just take a portion of that each year to set aside. Or we could or use a portion of the revenue from gymnasium rentals. The gym has just been open to us since February and it's already making money. Fundraise, there's lots to talk about there at another time. Another possibility for raising money is institute a reservation fee for court use. Carnarvon Park and Oak Bay is an example. They have 5 pickleball courts there, and you can reserve the court for a fee online. If there's no reservation, you're welcome to use the court for free. But if you want to be sure of your reservation, say you get 4, 10, or 12 people together, you simply book courts online, you pay for them, and then you have that reservation. And then I would propose that money from a reservation system could go back into maintaining the courts. This is an interesting slide. Metchosin Pickleball Club was formed about a year ago by 9 founding members. We originally used, in the wintertime, we used the community hall. And the community hall was a wonderful space for us. It gave us a place to play, but it had its challenges. There's a post in the middle of the room, there's sloped ceilings, it's quite dark, and the courts are not regulation size in there. So, but we were a hardy group. We went twice a week and we did drills and we improved our skills. And actually these numbers on the slide are old. These are last week's numbers because I prepared this presentation last week. Today we have 99 members and 81 different people have actually played pickleball in the Metchosin gym. You can see the dog leg. That's where we got access to the gym, and then the club just grew exponentially. In the first 3 months, I booked and oversaw 57 2-hour pickleball sessions, and that was anywhere from 4 people playing at a time to 10 people playing at a time. And that has resulted in over $3,000 of revenue for the District of Metchosin. So, the benefits of a tennis court upgrade, not only for tennis, would be so Metchosin residents can recreate at home, and so less commuting, less carbon footprint. Why pickleball? It's the fastest growing sport in North America, and if you want numbers, I can get you some data on how quickly it is growing and has grown. Some advantages of pickleball is that it's easy to learn, but it provides huge challenges to master. It's accessible to almost any age and by people with mobility issues, even people who've had joint replacements. I'm one of them. It's accessible to almost any age, and different ages can play together. I have seen grandparents playing with their grandkids. So very skilled and very aged people can play together. It's very affordable. It only costs $50 to purchase 2 paddles and 4 balls. It's very space efficient, so we're not talking about putting asphalt over a huge area of grass. It would be a very small additional area to what's there, because you can fit 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. It's great exercise, even in a pandemic. Pickleball was played all through the pandemic because you can keep your distance from other people outside. It can be played at any intensity with players of mixed skill levels, and as players improve, strategy adds just a huge challenge and a huge new dimension. It hones physical skills, improves reflexes, speed, endurance, improves flexibility, strength, muscle tone, agility, balance, gets your heart pumping, burns calories, releases those feel-good endorphins. It promotes socialization. It's an extremely social sport. Fosters mental health, which is super important as we age, combats depression, and in aggregate, it improved health will reduce medical costs and interventions. I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, do we have questions? Councillor Gray.
Well, perhaps the most obvious question, been in the news a lot lately, the noise from pickleballs and what's happened in North Saanich. Now, our courts are located in a certain way, but what do you think about the noise question? Is it an issue of planting vegetation around, or what does one do?
Well, I have many things to say to that point. The first one is we deal with a lot of noise in our communities. We deal with lawnmowers, leaf blowers, chainsaws, construction, truck noise, barking dogs. We deal with all kinds of noise. Why this grabbed the attention it has, I really cannot say. I don't understand it. People say the noise from pickleball is louder. It actually is not. They've done decibel testing, and it is quieter than tennis. The problem is it is higher pitched. The sound coming from a pickleball is higher pitched than a tennis ball. However, there's huge innovations in equipment these days. In fact, I purchased a quieter paddle. So there's a lot of work being done on quieter paddles, and actually there's a man in Oak Bay who just produced, it's called the Owl paddle. He's just produced a paddle that makes a much quieter sound. He's also working on a new style of ball. So there are innovations coming, but until we get those, sound attenuation panels are one possibility. Carnarvon Park uses those all around their courts. Trees, hedges, those kinds of things work too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Any other? Councillor Shooten.
Thank you, Ms. Voyt. Inspiring, even though I haven't played pickleball yet.
Oh, we've got to get you out there.
Yeah, I dropped by once. I was speaking with a well-known elected official here in Metchosin just this afternoon,
Okay.
and we were talking about Sherry. We were talking about some very, all the things that we could do with the field. But I think we came to the understanding that there's likely a plan that needs to be developed, particularly because, there's talk about a community garden. We also used the field to good effect last year for parking for Metchosin Day, and also the other event that we held, the vintage car rally. So I like the idea. I also have some questions about noise as well. It's heartening to hear that there's some innovations coming.
Well, you can put a bubble over it too. That's what Obey did.
Yeah.
It's another innovation. Okay.
Yeah. I would just, I have talked to Shannon Carmen as well about the Village Square concept, which is, again, inspiring. The one caution I would throw out is there's some time needed to plan. And unfortunately, when you get into the hands of local government, things seem to take some time, because I think you're trying to deal with competing interests all the time as well, or other interests that layer on. So again, inspiring. I think we maybe need to have some deeper conversations about the village center. So.
I consider this a jumping off point. This is, I'm hoping, new information probably for most of you. I would just ask that please, I'd like to be involved in any group plan, and I agree that it should be a cohesive community plan. It should involve a lot of different people and a lot of different ideas. Yeah. Certainly not one group charging ahead with one idea. I really do think it needs to be a group effort.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation and keeping in touch, because you've emailed me a few times because of what the West Shore Parks and Recreation is doing. So our taxpayers here are already investing in tennis courts and coveralls and pickleball. So more to come on that later this year. The tennis is being worked on as we speak, and the pickleball is coming in the next 8 months, I hope. with cover.
With the cover. That's good news.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's, I think it'll help spurs to get moving on what we're, some plans for recreation in Metchosin. And I agree, I think it's important to have, with all due respect for what's at West Shore, which is great, but it still would be really nice to have better and more facilities just down the road from where we live.
And I guess the last point I would love to make is that I am a certified level 1 coach. I would love to teach beginners for free. So together we need to figure out a way to do that without having them to join a club, spend money to get their first beginner lesson. So because right now to use the gym, you require that people become Metchosin Pickleball Club members to get the liability insurance. So I feel that there is a bit of a financial barrier there if you want to teach a beginner. If you ask them, they have to spend money to join a club and then they have to spend money for their lesson. I think that's a bit of a barrier. I would love to be able to hold free 1-hour lessons where people can just come and try the sport, but together I think we need to work a way how to deal with this liability issue.
We do have waivers. We did I know we have had, the gym has been rented by drop-in, some drop-in sports enthusiasts. It was a floor hockey.
Still have to have insurance. So.
They had their own insurance. Wasn't the waiver? Because I know we were going to have that just for that.
Everyone has signed a waiver from Metchosin Pickleball Club as well. So we have our liability, and I've also asked everyone to sign a waiver. Ask Stephanie, she gets emails from me all the time.
Okay,
Waivers. Anyway, that's a future conversation I'd like to have on how we can best together figure out how can I offer beginner lessons for free and where we all feel comfortable with the liability.
Yeah, I think there'll be a discussion with our CAO, who happens to have quite a good background in recreational facilities, and hopefully we can move forward on a plan.
Okay. Anything else?
Councillor Donaldson.
Councillor F, how many, we painted lines for pickleball in the gymnasium. How much did that cost and how many courts did we line out?
We have 2 courts, and I'm not sure how much the painting was anymore. It was quite a while ago.
And that's for basketball in there as well?
Yes.
So it is multi-use.
Yeah, it was multi-use, yeah.
Good, thanks.
All right, any other questions? All right, well,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the work. Thank you. Okay, it's time for public participation. If anybody would like to make some comments, maybe I'd love to hear them.
Hello, Eric White, 4290 Metchosin Road. I think this is Public Works is the right forum for this. So as some of you may well know, I am a local farmer, a young startup farmer, and every year I am spending ridiculous amounts on irrigation. My bookkeeper just told me, why do you spend so much on irrigation? And well, it's because it's costly. What I'm hoping maybe is that Metchosin can put the first steps forward in maybe their tool library of taking things like old fire hoses and maybe old expired pumps, things that the fire department can't use just because it's maybe outdated, still pumps water, but it's no good to them because of regulations or whatever, and having it just in available for us to rent out for a season so that we can start our farms without spending the thousands of dollars that pumps and hoses and even sprinklers costs. One of the major benefits to this is if they rent it out to us, they can keep track of who has it, and therefore if there's a fire in that neighborhood, for instance, I have a giant pump now, and the person I rent from, just in case anyone else wants to rent their land to a fire worker, I have a pump, I have sprinklers, I've got tons of water. If there's a fire there, we can just turn it around on our house and there's no problem. So that's a benefit to anyone who wants to rent their land, and as well as if Metchosin could help us with having pumps and sprinklers and things like that available. Just like that idea, and hopefully maybe we can do something with it.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there, David Shanks. I live on Dutton Road. I put in an email that I thought I'd speak to before the meeting as well. I see it's on the agenda, so I thank you for that. It relates to Duke Road East and the portion mainly from where we live, or from Albert Head Road up until Metchosin Road is, it feels sort of unsafe for particularly our children, but anyone else who might be walking on the side due to there's steep ditches on the sides, there isn't really much of a shoulder and that type of thing. And so I put forward an ask to yourselves. I had noted that Metchosin is working on an active transportation plan and has received a grant for that, which is great news towards developing a plan for all of Metchosin, and I applaud and thank you guys for moving forward with that. For this partly relates to the discussions around Duke Road East with a roadside trail, and the discussions for that so far seem to have been to do it in 3 phases. And the portion I'm talking about would be the 3rd phase, which seems like it will be the most difficult and most costly to put something in place for a roadside trail. And so the hope for my suggestion on this 3rd phase is something that could be done in a more inexpensive and less costly, or less costly, and something that can be done more quickly than the likely more expensive trail solutions. And so the ask that I had put forward was to put up speed signs to remind people of the speed limit is 50, not 70 or 80 or whatever it is that is quite easy to get rolling down that hill. And then the other ask is in looking into an advisory shoulder or a walkable shoulder, which I'm not an expert. I've just read through some of the guidelines and things from BC, but it sounds as though it's take out the center line, paint over it, whatever you'd like, and then you move in the lines on each side to make a shoulder that's wide enough to have people having a safe, sort of dedicated space for them to walk. And then when there's no people around, if 2 cars need to pass, they can move into that space. But it then provides a prioritized space for pedestrians or cyclists, whomever, where they can move more safely and traverse up and down the road, which as a parent I would much appreciate for my young children have to go up to all the way to Duke Road and Metchosin to get to their bus. Let's see, do I have anything else here? Yeah, I guess that was what I intended to speak to, and I guess provide a little context around how I thought it was useful and relates to the other trail that's being discussed as a possible option. So thank you for your time and for your consideration on the agenda today. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Tamara Ballard, Metchosin resident. I just received a couple of texts. Councillor Donaldson, if you could speak a little closer to your microphone, you're not being heard very well at home. And also, I noticed that in the new washrooms at the school, there's no receptacles. There's no trash cans. So people are going to flush stuff if there's nothing to dispose of it. So it might be something you want to look into.
Thanks. Great, thank you. Okay, last call for public participation. Okay, moving on then to the adoption of the minutes from March 11th. Could I have a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? And then the receipt of the minutes of the Healthy Communities Committee from March 26th. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by somebody.
Hold on one second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion? That one? All in favor? And the receipt of the Healthy Community Committee meeting on April 23rd. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion, okay, all in favor? Thanks. All right, move on to my councillor's update here. For the public works, the crew, I imagine people have noticed all the piles of debris on the sides of the roads that they've been cutting down and chipping. They're doing as much as they can about that, and according to the budget restraints that they're working under, they're dealing with poison hemlock and knapweed in various places, and the roads, crack sealing and patching, and work in parks and trails and lines will be coming up this summer, spring and summer. Maybe we can talk to them. I will try to talk to them about the line idea, because that is an interesting concept. I mean, certainly in a lot of communities around, there's not room enough for 2 vehicles to pass. And I don't know if that's a possibility, but we'll look at it anyway. And the dog waste receptacles, people may have noticed, have been removed from Taylor and Weirs Beach area. It was just the usual problem, which happened last time, of all the garbage and household waste and so on that ended up being dumped by the receptacles, which is really unfortunate. The engineer's working on a plan for the location of the crosswalk for the Goose by Matheson Lake. It's been a bit challenging there because of the CRD parking lot and right-of-way, as well as the curb where it's located, heading towards Header Bay, and also with the Bank of Canada post boxes there. So, but anyway, I think that's underway, and we should have a solid plan in a week or two and get going on it. We do have the lights for that crosswalk already. So, as far as cell service, I was hoping to have a little more of a report, but I did contact Cavi Bal, who's the Director of Government Affairs for Rogers, this morning. He said he's still waiting for an update from his team on building plans for the next 24 months. He said he hopes to have some information on chosen cell service by the end of the week, so I don't know if that's something to hope for or not. So anyway, we did have a quarterly stakeholders meeting last week, and it's always a great meeting with so many different groups from the prison and from the base, and it's just such a huge group that comes and sharing ideas on improving communication, on heat response and things like that. Through the Emergency Operations Center, they're working to hopefully having ham radio operators Hello. Oh, there it goes. We have the magic touch.
Did you do something?
Okay, we'll carry on. So, yeah, I was talking about the EOC. One interesting thing is that most of the equipment is going to be stored in sea-cans containers, so that if we did have a massive earthquake and buildings collapse, they would still be able to access their equipment. And they're also mentioning how FireSmart, which the chief will mention or has in her report, but there is programs out there for helping people FireSmart the property and information on shipping and so on. I did a meeting with RCMP Superintendent Todd Preston last week to talk about the various needs and problems in the West Shore communities. We didn't really talk about traffic because it's kind of an ongoing issue everywhere. I did mention the motorcycles and of course speeding in Metchosin, as well as the galloping goose and the cyclist traffic that can cause some havoc. They don't stop at the crosswalk light. They don't use the lights. They just zoom across the crosswalks in a lot of cases. And so anyway, Superintendent Preston did say that he was going to ask the bike patrol to start to do some work on the Goose and hopefully slow down some of those cyclists. One of their big priorities is mental health, and their mental health team has already been quite successful in answering some of those calls. And there's always gang activity. They got rid of that one gang, but now there's some Asian fellows moving in apparently, and they have there's a huge increase in the theft from stores like Walmart and so on, walking out with, it's not just like nickel and dime stuff, it's like plasma TVs going out the door. So that is a big concern. As far as the Healthy Communities Advisory Select Committee, still working on turning Metchosin into hopefully a dark sky community. The committee discussed priorities, and for the committee and subcommittee, along with the need to focus on doable projects to organize and implement. The committee is planning to invite Matt McLean, the Island Health Community Health Promoter for Healthy Communities, to give a presentation at a meeting this fall. It's a new position for Island Health. So he ran into him at the ICC convention, and he said, he could come and give us some information on ways they could help out the community. For the school, we are planning to enlist an architect to design a main entrance for the school, which would be on the area by the brewery there, that front part, and so that's ongoing. And I'm just going to put out a last call for picking a name for the school. It was interesting, but there was an article in the Gold Stream Gazette recently talking about the Lance Caven Expo that we held, or that was held at the school recently, and the reporter mentioned that it was held at the Metchosin Elementary School. So she didn't say old school, she didn't say former, it was the Metchosin Elementary School. So people that didn't know better would just think that it's an elementary school right there. So anyway, but the name's been quite interesting, seeing some of these names. I'm just going to read them out. I mean, one resident said it was stupid and harebrained to think about a name, but anyway, we'll just carry on in spite of that. So some of the names, Nootka Rose Center, Kinnikinnick Activity Center, Endeavour Community Hub, Inspiration Activity Center, the Metchosin Arts Training Events Center, that in the MATEC, MATIC acronym, Orca Community Hub, Orca Place, Orca Community Center, Metchosin School, Old Metchosin School, Old School, Metchosin Multi-Use Facility, our Rural Community Arts Space, Orcas, the Village Venue, a Community Recreate Space, the Hub, and the Metchosin Hub. So more ideas are welcome. You can just send them into info@metchosin.ca where staff are just keeping a list. They're not doing anything with them, just keeping a list of it. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting. A lot of people wanted the traditional old school or things like that. I got one said, please use anything but old school. And another one said, no Metchosin in the title. So, but it would be really nice to have, whatever the name turns out to be, to have it, that we can put it on a sign, use it on documents and so on. So anyway, please send in, and we'll try to narrow the list down and figure out exactly how we're going to do this in the weeks to come. So as far as the Metchosin Senior Association, we heard that the 10th Parisian Cafe is set for June 1st. So that's always a really neat event. They're having, and please check out their website. Hearing Life is offering a free hearing screening on May 21st. They're also taking letters from people as far as the district's poverty reduction grant. Information about that is on the district website, as well as on the seniors website. So regular events coming up, the caregiver support group on March 21st, and the Friday social coming up. The last item I have is the West Shore Arts and Culture Center Intermunicipal Committee, looking for a facility to build a theater. So, we just kind of keep searching for places and talking to people. It's an interesting group to be part of. Some of the conversations in the West Shore community have included meetings with West Shore Parks and Recreation, the casino, and developers at Royal Bay and West Hills. It was interesting, there was one very promising location and a developer that was very keen It turned out that one kind of fell through because he wanted to have the theater and then build condos on top of it. And it turned out that that doesn't work because of the supports needed for the condos. And so you couldn't have a theater with posts all through it. It just didn't sort of work. So that was disappointing. But there are other options out there, and they keep working on them. So. And so the last thing we have on our agenda is the report from Chief Dunlop. And it's amazing what's been going on there, so hopefully everybody has a chance to look that up. The big thing is that the fire department has expanded medical capabilities and now allows responders to use full vitals such as blood pressures, blood glucose, oxygen levels, and provide some pain management. A few members have an emergency medical responder level. And so, with that can really help people that are suffering in pain and waiting a long time for the ambulance to arrive. And we mentioned FireSmart. Membership in the fire department is 35, with 9 new recruits have about a month left of training, which has been pretty intense. And there's a nighttime duty shift at the station. 2 new crew members sleep at the hall for faster nighttime and weekend response. And they're working, Chief Dunlop, again, always working on more grants. One coming up is for fire department equipment for 30 grand, and more FireSmart grants, and a next gen 9/11 grant. So on with that, there's still, everything is ongoing in the Metchosin Search and Rescue, Emergency Operations Center, the Neighborhood Preparedness Program, the Emergency Communications, and Metchosin Emergency Support Services. So there's just so much activity going on with volunteers that are doing a lot to keep our communities safe. One thing we mentioned is that given the fires going on in other parts of the province, the BC Welfare Services is shutting down open burning starting Friday at noon, and that does include Metchosin as well. And we did mention the pink about the traffic. So, there are a lot of traffic concerns, and the active transportation plan will hopefully really help us to find solutions and to be able to help out in these areas of concern.
Councillor?
Yes.
There's one piece here about a grant.
Pardon?
There's one page about a grant application for the fire department.
Right. Pages up there. Thank you. There it is. I knew I'd forget something. So would you like to speak about this grant, Chief Dunlop?
Good evening. So this is the FireSmart grant for 2024 and 2025. So I brought this to council back in fall last year, and you provided a resolution for the 2024 FireSmart grant, which was great. Thank you very much. We do have that. They have changed the way that they're managing the grant now, and because we've been doing it for so long, they want to just give it to us for 2 years rather than applying every single year. So now it's an allocation-based funding. So we have been approved for 2 years, so 2024, $200,000, and another $200,000 for 2025, but they need a resolution for the 2025. So it's just a carryover or along of the 2024 request.
Great. Okay, thank you.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend to council that council support the CEPF FireSmart community funding for 2025, the grant application.
Second.
Okay, that's moved by, are you okay to have that, make the motion? Okay, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion?
Well, I just say I think it's a tremendous benefit to the community to have the FireSmart program running, and compliments to those who are making it happen.
Yes, it really is awesome. What, Councillor Donaldson?
So I have a couple of questions so the chief could come back up to the mic, please. So who manages the grant money in this? This is something that came up recently. I don't know if you want staff. That came up with the auditor. So is it yourself or
Yes,
is it?
it's me. I do.
Okay, you
Yeah.
okay. And how many people do we employ with the 200,000?
The grant provides funding for a FireSmart coordinator,
Yeah.
and then she does all the FireSmart assessments and coordinates chipping, all that kind of stuff. And then this year we were able to get the mitigation, so we were able to bring in some people to come in and do actual FireSmart mitigation for seniors and those who can't do it themselves.
Okay, and is that the two gentlemen I see putting the rocks around?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good. So are they here all the time, like full-time, part-time hours?
No, it's kind of part-time and it's only for a short
Okay,
little stint.
so but
Yeah.
they're able to go to fire calls if we have to.
If they're trained for it, yeah,
Yes.
depending on the call, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the fact that we're having these funds, given that we've already started serious wildfire stuff going on in Fort Nelson. And we seem to be on the leading edge here, maybe I'm biased, in Metchosin, because I know when I visited other communities, Langford's now starting to get on board, going up to the Farmers Convention there in January. We had FireSmart there, and we were talking about what they're doing in Central Sandwich, and View Royal, but nothing like what we're doing here. So thank you to you and your coordinator and the volunteers too. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Did I? No. Okay, can we vote on that one then? We'll call a question. All in favor? Thanks. All right, is that it? Did I forget anything else? Okay. All right, well, I guess I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor?